So if I ink that up, I'm saying to Arthur, this frame of this particular thing, I've got a bigger one as well, and they belong to George Busby, and he gave them to me. They did have gelatine rollers in, because the old soft rollers used to be gelatine, but they were very susceptible to heat, and he'd had them in his garden studio, so they were sort of massively misshapen. He said, you can have those if you want. I was like, oh, great. So I bought some modern rollers, which are Durathin, and the rollers alone cost £80, so you can imagine how much a full set of these. So every time I use these, I think of George, because he was such a nice bloke, He was a sad loss.
Oh yeah,
George.
Yeah.
Lovely artist.
Yeah.
Lovely bloke. When you're rolling, it's don't just roll back and forth. If you do that, lift it off, it rolls round, so you're not just doing half a roller at a time.
Can't you, as you refine this? It's changing the sound.
This ink is actually commercial lithographic ink. It's called Rubber Base Plus. I'm not sure where the rubber bit comes into it, but one of the great things about it is, I can buy it from a little print suppliers in Albury, still selling it, and also it doesn't skin up, so you just throw away empty tins at the end, which is a fantastic advantage.
That might be the rubber bit.
Well, I'm sure it is something to do with that. I just don't understand the technology of it. It's a Dutch-based ink, Dutch-made.
What would you use if you couldn't get that?
Well, I mean, you can get plenty of printing ink. It's just a question of, a lot of the oil-based stuff does tend to skin up, and it goes hard quite quickly, really. And then you try and punch through it, and it shatters into little crispy bits, and then it goes on your block, So this doesn't do that.
No.
I suppose one of the things about it not skinning up, it does take a bit of time to dry. When it's used like this, I think when it's used on a lithographic press, it's going to dry fairly quickly, because it will be a very, very thin print layer, whereas this is, although it's fairly thin, it's a lot thicker than that.
Good stuff, I mean.
Yeah.
Done stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Done stuff.
Yeah, Dutch company.
I use that.
Do you? The rubber based or a different?
Rubber base.
Oh yeah. What do you use that for? Lithography?
Yes.
Yeah. Hang on. Get this round the right way.
I left the press.
Do you?
You're on the box.
Now this is...
I'll see you later.
Okay, Rob, yeah. This is for registering one thing over another. So it coincides more or less. Now, why it doesn't coincide exactly every time, I don't know, because I take a great amount of care in lining things up, but...
It was like that when I used to do screen printing.
Yes, it can drive you to drink, really.
Well, you just have to allow for it.
This is where the £14 weight comes in.
Yeah.
And then you get very high tech at this point. Yes, the wooden spoon. Now the weight is so you can, it doesn't move, but also you can lift it up and have a look and then put it back down again. You know Keith Jevons at all? Oh, I was with him the other day. He bought one of my pictures. But, in fact, it was funny. It was.
I've got a feeling. When did you end up teaching?
Where did it?
Where?
He was art advisor for Warsaw.
Yeah, I've got a feeling. Yeah. Yes, I know him very well.
Big jolly sort of chap.
Yes.
Lives down Kingsford.
Yeah.
It's
I used to
doing sort of teacher
work
training
for
and
him
things
quite
like
often.
that. Yeah.
Used to work for him.
Really nice. He had a lovely art centre over in Walsall.
Yeah, at Aldridge
Well,
Court.
Aldridge, wasn't it? Yeah.
Court.
Yeah, I've been there. Criminal business about getting rid of art advisors.
I know.
It's getting worse. Isn't it? It's like the.
It helped if you've got one in your corner, certainly.
Oh, certainly. They go on about identifying needs and all that business training and so on. It was all done, wasn't it?
Sorry.
It's settled in.
Now, the way of getting multiple colours on a print, this is one of the ways of having a different block for each colour. But the one over there is done, the one at the bottom of Tividale Aquaduct. The block for it's over there, but there's only one block.
Do you want your block?
No, it's okay. But what I do with it is to take a print off the block onto thin paper and do, half a dozen sheets of paper with it thinly printed. I just really usually rub my hand over it, and once they're dry, I then use those to cut stencils out on the scalpel, and with those sort of soft rollers, I put the ink through the stencils. So that's the way that's been done. And the final operation is to put the key block on the top, ink it up in black, and then take the print with a wooden spoon. I've got an Albion press which I recently acquired, and it's a tabletop one. It's got a pretty big bed on it, but it isn't quite big enough to do those, which is a shame, because some of those, it's quite hard work to actually take the impression, especially if there's large black bits. This particular block, this is a very intense colour in this area, and this is jet black all over. To get a complete, really black, dense black area is very hard indeed. And sometimes I need to work on the print with rollers afterwards in order to make it as intense as I want it. So you can use the flat of it, and sometimes if you really need to get some pressure on, you can use the edge of the spoon. You can see this is actually getting quite thin. That's taken a lot of work, and it gets its own sort of nice patina in the end.
Do you use it on Sundays with the gravy?
Certainly don't. No. We've got quite a few of these, but this is the only one that's been sort of polished up to that sort of state, really. Starbridge, used to teach at Starbridge Grammar School, at the sixth form college, Peter and his wife, Colquitt.
Colquitt, is it?
Jenny told me, as we were talking about wooden spoon for some daft reason, he said, Peter was in such a state, he broke his, it was like the end of the world, he'd got it sort of worked into a nice...
Another good printer.
He was, he got a lovely way with lining. So another way of introducing colour into print is by hand tinting. And again in true Blue Peter style. Now this is the print at the top there. Now when you hand colour, well, at least when I'm hand colouring prints, I'm never really aiming for what you might term talk to the devil, eh? I just mentioned you.
I'm going to go.
I don't sort of see it as trying to create a colour photograph at all. It's a print, and I keep the colours sort of simple and not too many of them, and not necessarily being too naturalistic. I don't know why, but a lot of my work, whether they're sort of printed colours or did certainly go through a phase where all skies were yellow for some reason, and it never seemed to look bizarre, but sort of quite. I think it gives things a nice brightness. A good thing about sort of oil-based inks is that you can watercolour on them without any problem of dissolving the pigment. It won't run into your colours. It also runs off the ink as well. I don't know about you, but I'm very nervous. Just dry brushing off the colour off the flat black bits. I don't know why I brought this one really, it's the most difficult. No. That was Gambo's shoe. It's really interesting people. Now you notice I've stretched the paper, and that means I end up with a nice flat picture at the end of it. I don't actually, it is I suppose in the end, once you've done this, a unique print, because it's sort of hand coloured and two are never going to be identical. But I did notice at summer exhibition this year, Paul Arrigo had got one in, or got two in actually, sort of A3 size etchings which he'd hand coloured. She called them unique prints, which enabled them to charge 21,000 a piece for them. Which I thought a bit stiff really for a print, especially you get a lovely Norman Ackroyd for about 400. Right, now if we just have a little talk about something while this is... Have you hung it yet?
Yes, it hasn't dropped off the
You said you were going to put it over the bed, but it's a pretty big, heavy thing there, wasn't it? It's got a very secure nail on it.
I've got two on it.
Oh, good.
Put some life into the bed if it comes down.
Excellent. Different papers give you different qualities, I've noticed. You know, I quite like the way the colour migrates to the edge of a pool of water, and it gives you a rather nice quality. Now, some papers that I've printed this on, it doesn't do that. It just stays flat, and it's a shame really. You can see it's beginning to sort of colour the pigment going towards the edge, and then you get a nice sort of crisp curly edge. I expect watercolour people hate it. Right, now, I have to be a bit careful about doing the next bit. The next colour, I shall put some colour on the engine house when it's dry around there. I don't want it bleeding in. But I do use the next colour on the trees and things. I won't be using green, I shall be using indigo. Now indigo is a really useful colour. It's got enough blue in it, but it isn't going as far as sort of ultramarine or Prussian blue. It's a sort of softer blue than that. And then it's got a nice grey quality to it as well, so you use sort of a grey colour. And if you mix it with a little bit of burnt sienna or something, you get some really nice greys. And in fact, if you make it quite intense, you can more or less substitute black with it, you know. thing is that the yellows is under the whole thing, and so really there's no white paper left. But actually, by the time you've got the darker colours on and so on, the rails of the bridge and so on don't need to be white. It would be too harsh if it was white. It just calms it down a little bit. But also the fact that it's got yellow, that colour all over it, sort of holds it all together as well, pulls all the colours together. One thing I don't particularly want to use fine brushes. There's no need for fine brushes really if you're working in this sort of way. And what's this one? 10. And if it's a good one, you know, you'll be able to do some quite fine detail with it anyway. Once I've done it, I shall look at it, and then I might sort of intensify some of the colours afterwards.
Dries a lot lighter than it looks when it's wet, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, it will depend really on. Some of it's a bit thicker, and I sort of might put some more colour onto some of the lower areas, you know, to give it a little bit of shading. Don't want to be too sort of photographic about it. They can, so I'll just put a little bit onto the building. Oh, sorry. You know, like the chap who's got all the printing kit in one. There's a fella that's got a lot of printing equipment.